Welcome in to a brand new episode of a whole new ball game. I'm Alex Fuse. There's Vinnie Pasquantino and Bear Pasquantino.
Yep, Bear's right there. He's sleeping. He's taking a quick afternoon nap. He's really, the Bears play at 4:30, so
Oh
he's
yeah,
getting ready for that game. Naturally, he's getting his sleep in now, making sure he's wide awake for that football game.
is he a Bears fan?
Well,
There.
now by family, he is a Jets fan, but by his first name, I allow him to be a Bears fan. It's only fair to him. So
That
we're
makes
always locked in. We're always locked in on those games.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. To everybody listening to this, as you all know, I was away last week. We only did one episode, and there were some things around the country that we wanted to not interfere with. That happened that were not great things. So we decided to hold off and just do one episode. But so I was gone last week, and I come back. I took a hiatus from social media for the week, and I come back and I find out Alex is doing his own podcast away from this podcast. I find that out on Twitter. I get notifications on my phone and I load it back in, and I take 1 week away, and next thing you know, Alex is doing his own podcast. So I am officially the side chick of the podcast game with Alex because he's got his own now. Quick shout out to Alex's other podcast, The Last Story. So it's great. So that's what we've learned. That's what we've learned since coming back. I'm now back full time for the show, and I find out Alex is now 50-50 in on this, 50-50 in on his other thing.
No, if you read the fine print of it, it's an interview series, so it could end in 2 weeks. And it's bi-weekly, Vinny.
And I just want everybody to know. Oh, I thought bi-weekly meant twice a week.
No, bi-weekly, like it's only 2 interviews a month. Okay.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Bi-weekly means I think it means both.
Did I mess
bi-weekly, twice a week.
Like one episode bi-weekly.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't know if it'd be better to say, see, this is why you need me. Man, that's tough. I think it actually means both.
No. So I'm not wrong.
You're 50% right.
All right. I'm batting 500.
And I'd just like everybody to know I did not tell Alex I was going to say that. I've been waiting for a while to bring that up on this episode, so I'm glad that I did it. So that's what happens when I go away for a little bit. I come back and
I just wanted just something, I don't know. Like I wanted to just do something a little fun on the side.
We know who he's going to interview. So we'll start with Boog. He'll interview him. He'll interview Jess. He'll interview, let's see, who are the classics? The classic Alex interviews. I'm trying to think. Nancy Newman will come on. It's really just going to become a whole new ball game, but it's just Alex interviewing people. That's what it's really going to be.
No, it's going to be a whole new ball. No, I'm kidding. It was a joke. No, I mean, I'm actually really excited. It's a little bit of a different style interview. It's about people's life advice and just what they've learned. And I guess I'll name drop the first guest. Can I do that on this podcast?
Yeah, why don't you give yourself a plug?
Yeah, so the first episode drops this Wednesday. So it's every other Wednesday for the time being until, I think, and this first guest I'm really excited about. He's been a good friend of mine for, probably 4 or 5 years now. And when thinking of the last interview, the gimmick of it is, if this was the last interview you ever do, what would you want to be remembered for? Like, what would you want to be the last interview you ever do? And when thinking of guests in mind of who would be perfect for this, here's someone who literally came out with a book called Extra Innings because the last 4 or 5 years of his life, he's battled with cancer every single day. Fred Claire, who was former GM of the Dodgers, he was a GM of the team when they won it back in 1988. And before this year, he was the last GM of the Dodgers to win a World Series. And so Fred's going to be the first guest on the show. And Fred was the GM of the Dodgers for 12, 13 years. And he was good friends with Tommy Lasorda, who just passed away. And they had a great friendship. And I'm excited to hear what Fred has to say about Tommy and him. And I'm excited for it. So the first guest, Fred Claire. What does Fred have to say? And if this was Fred's last interview, what would he want to be? What would he want people to remember? So I'm excited. Should be fun.
Have you already interviewed him, or are you in the waiting to interview him?
No, I have not interviewed him yet.
Are you nervous?
No, because I've interviewed Fred before.
Oh, a classic Alex interview. You know, branch out a little bit. Get some people that you haven't interviewed before.
I know, but
that you're not friends with. You know, get some people you have no idea who they are.
I know. Well, that's Tuesday. I'm interviewing someone I've never interviewed on Tuesday, so I'm excited for that one.
Who?
Brandon Steiner, Steiner Sports. He created Steiner Sports memorabilia.
So is this also for your Last Story podcast?
Yeah, so this one will go out in 2 weeks.
Okay. It better be edited very, very well if it's going to be 2 weeks before okay, well, that's interesting. So it's good to know. Alex is broadening his horizons a little bit. So good for Alex. You got anything else before we head into the interview with Bob Fescoe?
No, I just want to mention it looks like you need a haircut.
My hair is getting a little bit weird right now, but by the next time we do an intro and outro, I should have a setup for. The problem is I'm leaning up against my bed right now, so it doesn't make anything about me look good. The only thing that looks good in my background right now is Bear the dog right there behind me.
And it looks like it's not, but I hope it was. Like the thing in the background, it looks like a guitar case. Now, obviously, it's not.
How do you know I don't play guitar?
I just had a
We've never talked about guitar once in my life.
That's true, but I just had a gut feeling that you don't play the guitar.
Well, it's all my bats. That's what's in there. All my bats are in that guitar case, and that's it. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, wait, hold on. The coolest part about this interview, we posted on Twitter already, but in the middle of this interview, breaking news came out. I currently, honestly, don't even remember what the news was, but breaking news came out in the middle of the interview, and we asked Bob about it, and he went on for like 2-3 minutes about the signing, and it was just really cool. You could just tell that he is an absolute professional with what he does, and that was a really cool moment. We got to see him in his natural habitat pretty much. So you'll hear that on this interview. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Bob Fescoe.
Another big show for you today. Bob Fescoe, host of Fescoe in the Morning on 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City. Bob, how are we doing today?
Oh, I'm outstanding, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys asking me.
Absolutely. So, again, thanks again for joining the podcast today. And like what we said before we got rolling, it focuses on you as a person. And, of course, you are well known in the Kansas City area. What is your favorite thing about working in Kansas City?
Well, I think it has to be the fans, because in Kansas City, sports matters. It's not like in some other cities, some of the bigger cities where, it's more of a melting pot where people, say for Atlanta are fans of other teams. They're not really into the local teams. But here in Kansas City, everybody's a Chiefs fan. Everybody's a Royals fan. And there's just something special about that, man. This city runs on those two football teams and baseball teams here in town. And everything that they do is talked about. Everything is discussed. There really is a big time buy-in by the fans here in Kansas City. And to do what I do, that's the kind of fan base you want. You want an engaged fan base, and we've got a great one here in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed about Kansas City is there's just a buzz around, and especially right now with the Chiefs. Like, obviously, that's a natural buzz. I mean, when you rarely lose football games, that'll do it for you. And when you have Mahomes, who's such a marketable guy too, so like, does that make your job easier when there's a team that's that good, or does it, on the flip side, does it make it harder if the team isn't very good?
Well, I've been through both, really. I mean, we've been through some really bad times here in Kansas City with both the football team and the baseball team. And, when they're losing, people think, oh, that's great for sports talk radio. But it really isn't, because people don't care about a team that's not winning and not producing and not, doing a lot of fun things like we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years now here in Kansas City, dating back to 2014, with the Royals. When the Royals won in 2014 and 2015, the city came alive like I've never seen it before. And now that the Chiefs are doing their thing, I mean, it's just everybody is in, everybody's involved. You're meeting people and talking to people that maybe you've known for years that were never much of a sports fan, but the Royals got them to be a big time baseball fan because it was fun. And then Patrick Mahomes comes along and everybody is a Chiefs fan, because not only is he the greatest player we've ever seen here in Kansas City, he may be the greatest NFL player to have ever lived. And so we're witnessing that right now, and we're living every single moment of that right now. And so everybody's involved, everybody's invested, everybody loves what's going on with this football team. And, since basically, 2014, this town has taken off as a pro sports town.
Now, you mentioned back in 2014 when the Royals first made it to the World Series. In 2015, they won it. What was it like before then? Did you feel like it was more football dominated? Because the last time that the Royals had a real successful run was back before the 2000s. So I think you're seeing it now. New York is different because of the Yankees and Mets. But if you're a Mets fan, it kind of feels like you don't have your core there, but you still watch the games, if that makes sense. Do you feel like what had the dominant factor in that market? Was it always just a melting pot of football and baseball? What was it before the Royals had their big run in this century?
Well, I still think it's a baseball town even today with Patrick Mahomes, and people will want to battle about that all the time. Is Kansas City a baseball or a football town? And it's a sports town, man. If you're winning it, it's great. But this is a baseball town. I mean, people are more involved and invested, in the Kansas City Royals on a level that fans in New York and Boston and Chicago and LA never have to be invested. They don't have to know the minor league system. They don't have to know about salary cap. They don't have to know about 6-year contracts and arbitration and all this kind of stuff that we have to know and understand here in Kansas City and how it truly works in a small market. So I think the baseball fans here in Kansas City are some of the most educated fans as well, because they have to know all the goings on of what it's like to try to compete and contend in a small market, where if you're in New York or LA or Boston, you just make trades and sign guys and spend money, and it's not that easy here. So I think this has always been a baseball town. This is a town that loves baseball, and everybody saw that on display in 14 and 15, and the world went, oh my gosh, look at Kansas City and the way that they support this baseball team and the way things are going on right now. So I just think it's a great sports town altogether. But my first love is baseball. And I think for a lot of people, their first love here in Kansas City is baseball, because people forget the Chiefs were not very good from basically 1970 to present day. I mean, really, they had some good years with Marty Schottenheimer and Dick Vermeil and whatnot. But for the 70s and 80s, it was an empty place over there at Arrowhead Stadium while the Royals were winning.
So getting more into your job, first of all, how did you get into it? Like, what drove you to do what you're doing?
Well, I was 8 years old, and I was watching the Giants and saw John Madden and Pat Summerall and said, hey, I guess I'm not going to be able to play. I'd like to talk about it. And so ever since I was a kid, it's just something that I wanted to do. And, when I got into high school and started looking at colleges, I had a friend of mine who, grew up in Topeka, Kansas, and made some money on Wall Street. He says, you ought to check out KU. It's where I went. I never even heard of Kansas. I said, all right, I'll go out there. And it ended up really being the only place that I considered and looked at. It was just such a great place to be, and the professors and the program and the ability that I had, right from the jump, at KU was just something I couldn't pass up. And so it just became something that I've wanted to do forever. And I've been very blessed and very fortunate to be able to, to pick a profession at, the age of 8 and do it. And I always tell people my dad is now retired, and he's still wondering what he wants to do with his life. He's still trying to figure out what it is that he truly wants to do. And I was able to find that, and I've been able to live that. And it really is a blessing for me.
Now, people in the industry, like for me, like I've known since 13, I wanted to do this. But
why did it take so long?
I don't know, Bob. That's a great question. I mean, you got 5 years, over that. And, but I have other interests, like I love the social media side, right? Or you like the marketing side or the booking side behind the scenes. I kind of like it kind of all kind of mixing. Your morning show, talk show host. Is there something out there that is in the same family, but that you don't get to do every single day that you enjoy?
I think So some of the behind the scenes stuff and just, talking to people and maybe it's not necessarily for air, but you're talking to, the manager of the Royals or the coach of the Chiefs and just kind of getting that information on how people are successful. We've been very fortunate in this town to have a World Series champion and a Super Bowl champion within the last 5 years. I don't know how many cities in America can say that. Actually, I do. It's zero. And we get the opportunity, just about every day to talk to all of these people who have had the successes. And you factor in Sporting Kansas City too, and Peter Vermees and the way that he's run that model organization, from an MLS standpoint, and Bill Self, throw him in from the University of Kansas. Just an opportunity to listen to guys talk about how they've been able to be successful, what it takes to be successful, and what it takes to be at the top of your sport. And we're very lucky to have people here in all of our sports locally, both the college and professional ranks, to have people that have been, at the top and have been very successful in what they do. And sometimes it's just fun to sit back and listen to see how they got to where they are.
Now, I don't mean to interrupt, Vinny, but we got breaking Royals news right now. So Jeff Passan just tweeted out, reliever Greg Holland has signed a 1-year, $275 million contract, $2.75 million deal with the Kansas City Royals. What's your instant reaction? Breaking news just went out 30 seconds ago.
Well, yeah, I think it's good. And I had heard over the last couple of days that he was probably going to come back to Kansas City. And it's just a good guy to have, in your bullpen. It's a good guy to have, kind of being an influence on some of the younger guys when they came up to the big league level. I think that's something that, gets lost in the shuffle at times. Like, you need a veteran presence. You needed some stability down there in that bullpen, because I think the Royals are going to be really good this year, and a lot better than people thought and think. And when I say really good, they're not going to win a World Series, I don't believe, in 2021, but I think they're going to be a team that's in it for a good portion of the year. And the last thing you want to do is have a really good 5 or 6 innings and then give it away because you don't have a good back of the bullpen. That's demoralizing, especially for guys that are trying to learn how to win at the big league level. The last thing you want to do is have a 6-inning game, have them play great for 6 innings, have the pitchers pitch great for 6 innings, and then turn it over to the bullpen that can't get the final, 9 outs of the game, or final 6 outs of the game, or even the final 3 outs of the game. And so having a guy like Greg Holland, who's been there, who's done that, who's been part of a championship team, I think is very important to the success of the future of this ball club, not just in 2021, but moving forward as well. Get used to winning, understand what it takes to win, and learn from some veteran guys.
So, pardon my French here, but holy shit, you are a natural. I mean,
that's what I was gonna say. The best.
That was unbelievably impressive. But now, for the people who are listening to this, this probably won't be released for a few weeks or so they'll know that we recorded on this day. But damn, that was good. So I guess
it has to go out today. By the way, that clip has to go out.
Yeah. How prepared do you need to be on a daily basis? Like,
apparently, he doesn't need to be prepared at all.
Yeah, for real. You just keep going.
I tell people all the time, what you guys listen to from 6 to 10 a.m. is, that's the hay in the barn. It's the other 20 hours of the day that are spent preparing for the show and talking to people and doing research and finding out what you want to do. And I'm grateful to be, around great guys. My co-host Josh Klingler is unbelievable. Our producer Ryan Wachowski is amazing. And it works well with us, and everybody just kind of throws out topics and what we want to do. And Ryan organizes the whole show and puts it together and, gives all the kind of the behind the scenes stuff, the sound bites, the drops, the ha-has, the stuff like that. And it all kind of ties it together, but you're constantly working. It's a constant job. People think you work 4 hours a day and they have no idea. And that's the greatest compliment you can receive, is that, oh, you only work 4 hours a day. Your show sounds great. But that goes to show how natural it is, how easy it sounds, how fun it is for people to listen to. You can listen to stuff and you can clearly listen to people who haven't prepared, who don't know what they're doing, or are flying without a net. And it's just not good. And believe me, I've listened to a lot over the years and have heard that stuff all over the country, really. And I think you have to put in the time. I mean, like from the time we get off the air to the time we get back on the air, we're preparing for that next day's show.
Just a quick side note question. Everybody says, voice for radio, whatever. How many times in your life have you made the joke that you have the face for radio?
Oh, I've done that a lot, but I've lost 60 pounds, so I don't think it's that funny anymore. I've got a great face for television.
This is something we've talked about, Bob, not recording and stuff. And, I listened to your Dayton Moore interview last week. I think it was Thursday or Friday, I believe. And, we've had conversations, and stuff. And what I respect about your show that you do and you about you is that it's really the same, you know, and I think that's something that I think I can kind of feel out, you know, okay, who's real and who's not, you know, and
Mhm.
if I am having a one-on-one conversation with something off the record and then I listen to the program on the record and it sounds like two completely different people, I'm turning them off. And I feel like your interview with Dan Moore was a perfect example of just the realness that you bring that not a lot of people do in the industry anymore. Is that easy to do in the industry, or do you kind of just do it anyways?
I mean, I don't really know how to answer that question because I am who I am. You know, it's like I'm not smart enough and I can't remember enough to if I'm going to fake something. You know, I'll forget something like that. It's hard to remember if you're not telling the truth and how you really feel, and so that eventually comes out in the wash that way. But I think a lot of it just has to do with it's something that I don't feel like I have to act for. I mean, I know we're performers, you know, 6 to 10, you know, in the morning. We're performing out there. We're having a good time. We're trying to put on a show, as we call it, you know. But I think you always have to be, you know, real to yourself because I think if you're not, you're going to get lost in your own, you know, jargon and your own stuff, and you're going to forget what you say about, you know, subject A, and you may say something on Monday, and then on Tuesday you forget what you said because it wasn't really how you're feeling, and then you're completely contradicting yourself. So I just think you have to be real all the time.
Now, what's your favorite like segment to talk about? Like, what could you just talk about and just because there's got to be things that you know speak on that you don't like talking about, or you know you don't really want to get into, but you need to. But on the flip side, what is something that you could go to every day if you needed to and just talk about it?
Well, Patrick Mahomes, I think,
Yeah,
is one of those things for us right now
yeah,
that we can absolutely just set it up and talk about him, you know, any day of the week because there's so much to talk about,
right.
and there's so much that he just does on a weekly basis that, you know, when you're watching these games, it's just one thing after another, after another, after another, a different type of record here, a different type of record there. It just never ceases to amaze you. And so that's something we could talk about, you know, forever. When the Royals are winning, I'll talk baseball all day long and talk about, you know, how great it was last night at the ballpark, or, you know, how good some of these young pitchers are going to be, and some of the young position players that are coming up and the guys we're excited for to see up here, you know, in Kansas City, and talk about that kind of stuff. So I just think if it's rolling, man, and you're having fun and the team's winning, it is easy to talk about that kind of stuff.
Now, Bob, at my other school, Dean College, I had a morning radio show from 7 to 8 a.m. I did it Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. But I would struggle with staying up late watching the games
Hmm.
because I would have to get up around 4:30 to properly prepare for the show. So, what do you do? Do you stay up and watch a game? Do you watch the highlights fresh in the morning? What do you do?
Well, I think a lot of it is you pick and choose, and you know we talk about it all the time, and you know you got to watch the games at night that are truly worth it. I mean, there are some times where there's a, you know, a West Coast baseball game. I'm in bed before first pitch of that game, but you know a lot of the time we're not talking about the game itself unless something crazy, you know, goes on. The NFL is a different beast because it's once a week and every game truly matters in you know playoff seedings as we're seeing right now in the league. So you'll do the NFL kind of stuff, but I think like an NBA game, college basketball, baseball, that kind of stuff. Sometimes games are just too late. I mean, you know, 3:30 does come early for a lot of us, and so you got to get your rest. You got to pick and choose what games you're going to watch, and you know, a lot of it is more about reacting to the moments that are taking place, not necessarily the pitch by pitch, the inning by inning, the at bat by at bat, but overall themes that are taking place throughout the games. You know, how did Singer do tonight? Did he go out there and pitch well? Did Bubic pitch well? They figure out a way to close it out again. All right, cool. The back end of the bullpen starting to look good. So you start talking about big themes and things around the team more so than the minutia of every pitch, every at bat, and every single moment that takes place during a game.
How do you think you have improved either your style of communicating with your audience or really anything? How do you think you've improved over the years?
Well, I think that's actually a really good question
Thank
because
you.
we were,
Nice.
yeah, yeah, and I love the fact that you do that because I do that all the time too. And somebody says that's a good question, I goes, oh, thank you very much, I appreciate that. It's kind of become a joke for us, but you know, we were kind of talking about it the other day, and someone said to me, you've kind of, you know, went from this mentality where you know were angry and yelling and all the time, and now you're kind of more reserved and kind of at ease. And they go, what's been the biggest difference? I said, being a dad. You start to realize, you know, what matters in life and what's important in life. And you start to understand that, getting caught up and getting angry over a team is like, it's not worth it. It's like big picture, one night on a baseball diamond doesn't break a season. One quarter of a football game doesn't make or break the season. How does it affect the overall portion of where this team is trying to head? And you have to take a step back sometime and realize, hey, it's okay. You're going to suffer a defeat here. You're going to have a bad at bat. You got through slumps and whatnot. You know what it's like. You got to think, how does it overall affect where they're trying to go and where they're trying to get at the end of the season. And most of the time you're talking about a football team that's sitting at 12-1, a baseball team that's got a world championship in a sport that doesn't lend itself to teams in market 20 and lower getting world championships. So you need to be able to take a step back and understand in the big picture of things what it truly means and what truly matters.
Well, do you feel like, looking back, you talk about the big picture of things, did you always think that Kansas City, being a morning drive radio show host, that's the big picture, that's something I want to achieve, looking back at your career now?
Looking back, I thought I probably wanted to go to New York and, be there because that's, where I grew up, right outside of New York City, and everybody, wants to, go home again or whatnot. But it was also the number one market. But then I realized, man, this is just a great place to live and a great place to be and a great place to do what I do. There are so many people out there that would kill to be in a market like Kansas City, where the sports fan is active, where the sports fan is engaged, where the sports fan truly loves their team and knows a heck of a lot about their team, and they're big time fans of this team. And so for what we do and for the field that I'm in, I mean, it's hard pressed to find many markets better than Kansas City right now.
So I've got a selfish personal question. I'm a Jets fan.
I'm sorry.
Obviously, yeah. Obviously, my goal is to make it to Kansas City, be with the Royals, right?
Yeah.
You have more of a read on the fans of out in Kansas City. Will I be welcomed to become a Chiefs fan? Is that something?
God, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, man. You come in here, you come up to the big league level, fans will love you. And yeah, you'll fit right in and just be a Chief. I wouldn't tell anybody you're a Jets fan. I mean, I wouldn't utter that out loud. I mean, my goodness, that's like, could you find a worse team? Now I grew up a Giants fan, so I can give you the business on that one. But Jets fan, what did your father do to you, man? Like,
we've got a house divided. He's a Dolphins fan. Well, we don't like. He's a Dolphins fan because he likes the colors. He's always liked the colors since he was, young. Yeah. I'm a Jets fan because of Vinnie Testaverde.
Okay.
My mom's a Giants fan, and then my brother's a Falcons fan. So we're all over the place.
Wow, you guys really are all over the place. I mean, that's crazy. Usually you just take on the fan that your dad. I mean, my dad raised me as a Giants fan, so you're a Giants fan, right?
Yeah. So I guess that sort of leads into the next question, because Alex is a Patriots fan. Do you think the Chiefs are going to become like the next, even as a small, like, kind of a small market team, the next like hated team in the country because they're so good?
We talk about that a lot, and I always say, how could you hate this team? Like, they don't have a hateable person like Bill Belichick. They don't have really a hateable guy like Tom Brady. I mean, as much as Tom Brady was accomplished, there's still a little hate for him. There's still a little arrogance in that. You've got a very humble superstar quarterback. And my gosh, when we were at the Super Bowl, everybody was rooting for Andy Reid. There isn't a person in this league who doesn't like and root for Andy Reid. Now if they win 6 in a row, I'm sure people will get tired of the Chiefs always being there. That's just kind of the way it goes. But it's hard to look at this team right now and not be a fan of the way they do things, obviously with the way that they win, but who they are. I mean, we've got, Patrick Mahomes, who's, he can do no wrong in Kansas City, and Andy Reid can really do no wrong in the NFL. People love that guy. And it's not like Belichick, who is just, he was always the smartest man in the room. And Andy doesn't operate that way. Andy's an easy guy to root for, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the Patrick Mahomes on your morning show team, and it can't be you?
Oh, that's probably Josh. I mean, he's just quietly really good at everything that he does. And, whether it's a funny ha-ha here or, setting me up to hit a home run or to, whatever the case may be. Yeah, he's the best. There's no better broadcaster in the world than Josh Klingler.
What do you guys do when there's nothing to talk about. I mean, I'm sure there's always just something to talk about, but how do you kind of transition if there's conversation's over or whatever it may be?
Well,
That's a biz question. My bad.
Yeah, no, but it's a good question because people always say there's what do you have when there's nothing going on? There's always something going on, and that's where that's why we do what we do, because everybody thinks they can do this job. Oh, I can react on Monday after a Chiefs game. Okay, here's 4 hours, go for it. They got 3 minutes of content, and they got 3 hours and 57 minutes to go, and we don't take phone calls. Okay, you just kind of move along, and that's where the preparation comes back. I mean, we try to do 2 topics every segment of whatever it is, and you're constantly moving on to the next. You're keeping your pacing up, you're moving along. And people were like, well, what did you do during the pandemic? There's nothing going on. There was more going on during the pandemic than there is with games going on. I mean, there was so much from a sports standpoint going on when there were no games going on. There was, is baseball going to play? Are they going to continue to embarrass themselves as the players and the owners fight about money during a pandemic? What's the NFL going to do? Oh, there's the NFL draft that's taking place. There's there was so much going on that we never experienced, obviously, before, that there was a ton to talk about. So when people say, oh, there's nothing going on, that's not the case. I mean, it's our job to find out what's going on, and there's always plenty going on and always plenty to talk about.
Now, obviously, just hearing you talk, you love what you do, you love your job, but even it becomes tiring. So how do you, on a day, let's say it's a Wednesday and you wake up in a bad mood, or you want to, hit the snooze button 3 more times, what gets you fired up, excited to go into work every single day, truly?
Knowing that I get to talk about the toy department of life, and there's so many people, especially right now with this damn pandemic going on, that just need an outlet of levity, and need an outlet of fun. I mean, we had a text from somebody today who said, kind of since the pandemic and the election was going on, they've turned off all social media and all TV, and they just listen to us every morning, and we get them through the day. And stuff like that makes it worthwhile. That you're really having an effect on people, and you're helping people get through. And I can't count how many people that we have helped with one thing or another in their lives, or they've reached out to us and go, thanks for being there for me. You don't know it, but you helped me through. We had one guy fighting addiction that was listening to us, and we helped them through that. Or people battling just little things in their lives that they can listen to us 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, and just kind of lose themselves a little bit, and not have to focus on the reality that's going on and what the real world is posing to everybody.
So I'm going to steal a question from Alex. This is a good question he asked, but I like it, and I think it goes along with this. So, your job is to talk. So what is one thing that you really wish somebody would ask you, either to talk about or just in an interview, whatever it may be?
No, that's a pretty good question too, because it's a tough one to answer. I think what the persona that we have on the radio is truly not the same sometimes as it is in our daily life. So when people get pissed at you for a sports opinion, they forget oh, that guy's got 2 kids, or he's involved in this charity or that charity, or he's doing that event or that event. Sometimes it'd be nice if if people would get to know the person as opposed to just the guy giving a sports take every morning.
Right.
So you brought it up. Obviously, you have a family and you're involved in charities. Do you want to talk? I hate that, because it's that question, you should be fired immediately. Talk about this. It's
the talk about is just, it drives me up a wall too.
Oh, it drives me insane.
But I think it's a great way to connect with the community. There's so many people in Kansas City that do so many great things, and it's fun to be part of that and to see just the smiles you put on people's faces. Like last year being with Tyrann Matthew, as he surprised 10 families with Christmas gifts, and seeing some of the gifts that people were wanting: diapers, microwaves, cleaning solutions, and just stuff that you kind of take for granted for everyday life, and these families were asking for. Or being part of the BMA Foundation like I am, and giving close to $2 million back to local Kansas City charities, or Dayton Moore See You in the Major Leagues Foundation, where you're making a difference. And my wife's part of that, mentoring kids every day, and building hope for autism, and just getting a family an iPad or a weighted blanket, just to see the difference that it makes in people's lives. That's what's truly great about this job, is just seeing people and helping people, even if it seems like it's a small thing. If you're doing it for somebody else, it's big for them, and it's something that they really love and something that they really need. And seeing them get something like that is just it's warming, man, especially this time of year.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've definitely noticed with Kansas City. It's a very giving back city. It's and I think it goes back to the small market, because it's more personable with the with the players, with the front office, with the fans. Everything seems to they run as one. Because without the fans, the organization can't run, and it just seems like a really cool place. But so you've been working in Kansas City. Is there another city besides New York that you could see yourself kind of having the same sort of job in, or somewhere you'd be interested? And I'm not saying you want to. I'm just saying like just another city that you might enjoy working in.
I'd always love to, work where it never snows, or some place like that. But I think to do what I do with the passion that I have, it would be very hard for me to do this job anywhere else because, you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, I've got to go talk about this team that I don't really care about, or in this sport that I don't really like, or so I think it would be very, very difficult to do it with the passion and the love that I had if I truly had to go somewhere else. I mean, I could develop that obviously, but I just think, where I am in my career, the age that I am right now, for me to go, talk about pitching matchups with two baseball teams that I don't care about, or a football team that doesn't entertain me like the Chiefs do, it would be very, very hard, very difficult to do that.
So, Bob, this is our new segment on the show. We've tested it out. You're the third person that we've done this segment with. I really love it. It gets me excited every single time. It's called Balls and Strikes. We go back and forth, and we ask you a question, and you determine if it's a ball or a strike. And the first person to get a strikeout wins.
All right.
Are you ready?
I am ready. So basically, good question, bad question.
Right.
Yeah.
Do I answer the question, or I just tell you if
you have to answer the question? Yeah.
Okay.
Vinny's going to go first this time.
Okay. Well, this is for the podcast question. It's going to be a ball, but it's okay. Do you prefer drinking out of glass or plastic cups?
Yeah, that definitely is a ball, but plastic.
Wow.
Plastic. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I like a
What's the
big
reason?
plastic tumbler. I don't know. I just the glasses are, you could drop and break them, and they're never big enough. And I don't know. I just like a nice plastic glass.
Okay. What is one piece of a sports memorabilia you don't own that you would like to own?
Everything, because I don't own much of anything at all. and I'll say that's a strike, because I like that question. People think you've got all kinds of stuff and great stuff all around, and I've never been one to go out there. We're not really allowed to do that kind of stuff either, but I don't own much sports memorabilia, so anything would be the answer to that question.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I was taught at a very early age, like, you don't ask anyone for an autograph.
No, it's not proper. I mean, you're there working, you're not there to collect autographs. So
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'll never ask Vinny for his autograph.
that's right.
So I'm up 0-1. Vinny's behind 1-0. All right, so the 0-1 pitch coming in over the plate. When was the last time you surprised yourself?
Oh, I'll have to say it's a strike, because I don't know the answer to that question. The last time I surprised myself. Maybe it was after the AFC Championship game when the Chiefs lost to the Patriots, and I wasn't necessarily like ticked, because I knew what was coming. I knew what the future held, and I was like, you know what? They lost that game, and it stings, and I was looking forward to potentially going to a Super Bowl. But this is just the beginning of what's going to be an epic decade run here in Kansas City. Yeah, so I think that's one of those where I was just like, all right, yeah, the loss stinks, but man, the future is going to be epic.
That's what I thought was going to happen in New York in 2010 and 2011 with two straight AFC championships.
Yeah, but
Mark Sanchez at the helm, but
yeah, Sanchez and Mahomes a little bit different there. Rex Ryan, Andy Reid, a little bit different there.
Jeez, Vinny, keep hoping, Vinny. So now I'm ahead, 0-2 here. What would be one person that you would like to do a podcast with to be the co-host, but the person has to be in your phone contacts?
Wow. My wife. What
would the podcast be about?
It would be about everything that I do wrong and me trying to defend myself. And I'm going to give you a ball on that one, because I want Vinny to ask more questions.
That's how he's won every time, and that's exactly how it goes. He gets 0-2, and then they give him a ball, even if the question's fine. Yeah. So, you bring up your wife. That kind of goes into my next question. Since you work, you get up at 3:30 every morning. You work from 6 to 10. How are you able to manage your work-life balance? How are you able to do that?
It's not easy, and that's why you have to kind of pick and choose which games you're going to be a party to and which games you're not, and you got to find a way to make do for everything. My wife, though, worked in sports. She's worked in 3 of the 4 major professional leagues and for Division I university and whatnot, so she understands what it's all about. I kind of found the perfect match for me. She understands what's going on, and she gets it. So it's not like I have to sit and explain why I have to watch this game or do that or the other thing. I'll give you a strike on that one.
Thanks. It didn't feel like a legit strike, but whatever. Oh, what is
Hernandez behind the plate? I see how.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, my favorite question. What is the best position in baseball? Not the most important, the best.
First base. That's what I played.
Let's go. Let's go. That's a big answer right there. You are officially on our list for guest of the year.
Yeah, I'm good.
That is big time. I'm very excited about that answer.
That's right. First base. I was a fat lefty. I had no other choice. But I was good with the glove. Couldn't hit worth a lick, but man, I could field.
And that's perfect. That is perfect. I don't even want to ask any more questions.
All right, you win. Strike 3.
Let's go. That was strike 3, and it was a 1-1 count. Let's go. So, Alex, do you want to blow them up, or do you want me to do it?
You can do it, Vinnie. You're better at this part.
Right. 30-second elevator pitch. Tell everybody where you are on social and what you bring to the timeline.
Well, I really I'm just on Twitter now, at Bob Fescoe on Twitter, and you can catch everything from our show there. And give some Chiefs opinions, but I like to save everything for the air, and so I'll put up show links, I'll put up stuff we're doing in the community and having a lot of fun with all that kind of stuff. But mostly it's a conduit for me to send out stuff that we're doing on the show to let people know, hey, we had Derek Johnson on, former Chief, on Monday, or on Thursdays we talk with Therese Paylor of Yahoo Sports. The voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Schultes, comes in on Fridays. During the baseball season, we have Mike Matheny, the manager of the Royals, on every Wednesday. So just kind of a conduit to reach the fans from a show standpoint.
Yeah, I did. I used to have a Dwayne Bowie jersey.
Oh, yeah?
So no big deal. I did have one of those.
Why would you have a Dwayne Bowe jersey of all people?
I got it at a thrift store
Nice.
in Richmond on Wacky Wednesdays, which means everything is 50 cents. And I found a football jersey. I was like, well, I'm buying it. So
I'm buying that one, yeah.
Yeah. So that's
pretty cool. That's a good pickup.
Yeah, I wish I had.
You should hang it back there.
I know. I have it somewhere in the house, but I don't know where it is. But so why don't you blow your show up instead of just your social? Blow the show up. Tell everybody where they can find you.
You could download the radio.com app, which is an unbelievable app, and listen to us there at 610sports.com. Also, if you want to go on the desktop version, just go to 610sports.com, click the listen button, and we are right there. But more importantly, download that radio.com app so you can have it everywhere you go.
Before we go, just a quick follow-up. You brought up you interview Mike Matheny during the Royals season every single week. Who is one manager besides Mike that you just love to talk to, that you wish you could talk to once a week again?
I loved our conversations with Ned Yost in 2014 and 2015 when the Royals were winning and doing great things and winning championships. Those conversations were awesome because Ned was so much more than just about baseball. I think our off-season conversations with Ned were just as good, if not better, than maybe the in-season conversations about him, battling beaver on the land that he has, or deer hunting, or doing all that kind of stuff. So he was an interesting cat, and as much as I love Mike Matheny being in charge right now of this Royals organization, those interviews back in the day with Ned when the Royals were champions were something special.
Well, Bob, again, appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast today. It's always fun talking with you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks, Bob.
What an interview with the one and only Bob Fescoe. What did you think, everyone?
Well, they're not going to answer you, Alex, because we're filming this before the interview drops, so they're going to have no idea how to answer that. But if you're asking me how I felt about it, I felt really good about it. I didn't know who Bob was before we interviewed him, so I had to do some research on him and find out who he is and everything. But which is the coolest part about this current podcast that we're doing, is because we're getting to meet new people that we don't know who they are previously, and I don't know if that's in no way is that disrespect to Bob that I don't know who he is, because he works in Kansas City. I don't live in Kansas City, so I would never hear his radio show for the most part in Kansas City. So that's the coolest part about this for me is talking to different people and kind of why he does what he does, when he figured out he was good at it, why he, everything about that. So that's the coolest part for me. I had a great time interviewing Bob. Like we've said before, he's an absolute professional. So that's, really cool to see.
Hands down, really one of my favorite interviews.
Yeah.
Even though you won balls and strikes to a technicality. I don't consider this you won because the count was 1-1, and he just really liked the question, and he just said that's strike 3.
Yep. Well, that's what happens.
And that just can't happen.
Well, it is what happened, and we don't.
So I would call that a tie.
We make the guidelines for the game, but the participants make the rules. And in his rule, I won. So we're not gonna. It's a win for me. I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm really happy about a win. I'll never complain about that. So.
Well, I disagree. But anyways, you can't win them all, folks. You just simply can't win them all. I've only lost twice so far, and you just keep on winning whenever you can.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to continue to do the rest of my life. Whenever I can find a victory, I'm going to go get it.
Then you probably shouldn't be wearing a Jets football sweatshirt, but
hey, we found 2 victories at the end of the year. What can I say? What can I say?
That's true. So Thursday's episode, Megan Plain, great interview, hands down. I already said hands down this outro, but still, she was great.
Yeah, and we've already kind of talked about her because we were going to drop her episode last Thursday. So the preview for her interview we did a week ago. So that'll be out this Thursday. We're really excited for that interview to finally come out.
No matter what happens,
Well, let's not say that. Things happen, and
that's true.
We're never going to look more than a day in advance, but we will just pencil in her for Thursday. So
we'll plan. No matter what happens, she will be the next interview that drops.
Yes, that is correct. No matter what happens around the world, whatever, Megan will be the next interview that drops from our platform.
Unless, you never know.
But ladies and gentlemen, go have a good rest of your week. We'll see you on Thursday, and just, have a good time.